Welcome to the Lentiles PaaS video series. Hi, my name is Dave Dillon. This video is part of a series of videos that teaches software development using Lentiles PaaS. In the previous series, we discussed understanding PAR files by understanding the web application menu, and we took a look at how the technology stack processes user requests. This series looks closer at our sample web application and discusses the page object model, which includes the page and JSP rule, constructor requirements, page event handlers, forms. This series will also introduce JSP include files. This episode will demonstrate examples from the marketing PAR of the Dillon Software Services website. The marketing PAR contains one page and two forms. One form demonstrates a sample invoice. Items may be added to the invoice and a price is calculated. The other form demonstrates the use of Google Charts. The Charts form is user passive, so most of this episode will reference the invoice form. Let's begin by looking at the Java page for the marketing PAR. The class name is arbitrary. In this case, the name is marketing. The page must extend a Lentiles PaaS base class. In this case, marketing extends data map service page. Notice that the marketing page implements JSP anonymous page. This is optional, informs Lentiles security that any user may access this page. If this declaration was not used, then only registered users that have permission to access the page would be allowed to submit to or view the page. Next, the event handlers are highlighted. There are 5 event handlers showing. Notice that all event handler methods begin with the expression event. Further notice that all methods have the single method parameter JSP transaction and a return type of JSP response. Lentiles PaaS uses Java reflection as part of the process of mapping HTTP parameters to pages and event handler methods on a page. Down the list of 5 event handler methods, event enter is the global entry point to the marketing PAR. The page suite configuration file contains a page key directive that associates the expression marketing with the marketing page Java class name. The link in the browser contains page and event values equal to marketing and enter respectively. Event enter directs the user to the marketing invoice page. The remaining four event methods assume the user has at least entered that marketing page one time. Event invoice directs the user to the marketing invoice page. Event charts directs the user to the marketing charts page. Event enable enables edit mode on the marketing invoice page. And event save captures any changes made to the invoice during edit mode. For each page, there must be one unique Java server page. That is, there is a one-to-one relationship between a page and the Java server page. The Java server page, or JSP, is responsible for generating the response HTML. The Java page class specifies the name and location of its JSP in its constructor. Notice the bang character in the constructor string. The bang prefix informs Lentiles PaaS that the JSP is located in an application subdirectory equivalent to the package name of the Java class page. The Java page may have multiple forms associated with it. There are no rules per se regarding relationships between forms, but the original purpose of forms is to make it easier for a user to view and comprehend a large data set that is associated with the page class by grouping segments or portions of large data set into multiple forms. A form has a signature or string expression that must be unique with respect to a page class. A page class has a default form, and if the page class does not override the Lentiles base, the signature of the deform is literally default. In this example, the marketing page class has 2 forms associated with it. The first form is invoice, which happens to be the default form, and the second form is charts. Check. So far in this episode, we have discussed the page Java class, its corresponding Java server page, or JSP, event handlers, and forms. An event handler is just a method on a Java class, so it should be easy to understand that an event handler can do just about anything that can be done with the Java programming language. But when the event handler is done doing its thing, whatever that is, it is time to think about the response, which ultimately is the response back to the browser. Recall that an event handler returns an object type of JSP response. Lentiles PaaS uses the JSP response to determine what component will be used to provide the response and will take steps to cause the appropriate component to render the HTML. The JSP response object may reference a response page class that should be used to render the HTML, or it may reference some other Java server page, or it may provide response content directly. When the JSP response references a page class, that page is called the response page. It is common that the request page and the response page are the same. Recall that every page class has a corresponding JSP file, as specified by the page class constructor. The JSP file is responsible for generating the HTML on behalf of the response page. Before looking at the JSP file render process, let's look at what Lentiles PaaS does between receiving the JSP response and handing control to the JSP page. PaaS has just received a JSP response from a request page. The JSP response is configured to reference a response page. Lentiles PaaS security must verify the user is authorized to access the current form associated with the response page. The response JSP file assumes that an instance of its corresponding page class is available, so Lentiles PaaS must ensure an instance of the response page exists. If an instance does not exist, Lentiles PaaS creates an instance of the response page and initializes it. Lentiles PaaS has authorized user access to the response page and has prepared an instance of the response page to support the JSP. The program flow returns to the service JSP file, which, if you recall from a past episode, is used to receive the HTTP request. Service JSP evaluates the JSP response and as a result forwards program flow to the JSP file. Program flow currently resides with the JSP file. This discussion is headed toward the introduction of the JSP include file, but before doing so, the reason for using JSP file include file will be presented. The programming language and constructs of Java server pages have a wide range of usefulness. The normal programming task involving a JSP file is to insert JSP tags into HTML code, but after a while, it can be difficult to read and know with any certainty that the JSP code you see will give you the output you want in the browser. Lentiles PaaS applications tend to be tools for enterprise productivity. With productivity applications, the user is concerned with completing a work task using an interface that is intuitive and reliable and that has consistent interactive constructs. With Lentiles PaaS, using a repository of reusable HTML objects, an HTML toolkit, and working with the normal Java programming language has proven to be more efficient than working with JSP files directly when developing enterprise applications. This is where the JSP include file comes into the discussion. The JSP include file provides this preferred environment by, in effect, turning the JSP tag inside out so that the source code programming environment is the regular Java programming environment. The roadmap from a JSP to a JSP include file is as follows. Begin with the JSP file corresponding to the page class. By convention, the JSP file contains a directive to include a local file named common JSP. Common JSP is useful when a package contains more than one page class. Common JSP contains two include directives. The first includes the local file initialize JSP. Initialize JSP is used to include all the JSP include files related to all page classes in a package. The second directive in Common JSP includes map merger JSP. Map merger JSP is located in the root folder of the Tomcat application. Map merger JSP will be discussed more in a different episode, but at a high level, map merger is responsible for embedding the HTML output of a JSP include file into the palette section of an HTML page template. Initialize JSP contains include directives for each local JSP include file in the package. Initialize JSP also registers a new instance of each JSP include object with the object merger repository. Each JSP include class has a unique string signature. When it is time, a JSP include class is called upon using its signature. With the signature, MapMerger JSP fetches a cloned instance of a JSP include class, binds the clone to the response, and invokes the clone to generate HTML. There are no new restrictions with the JSP include file, but with Lentiles PaaS, there are self-imposed structural and naming conventions. First, the first program construct in the file must be a Java class that within the class hierarchy must implement HTML object merger interface. Second, the name of the Java class must match the name of the JSP include file. Third, it is strongly encouraged that the Java class correspond to a page form. Doing so makes it easier to comprehend the organization of the code with respect to the features, which is especially helpful for maintenance. With these three conventions, a developer can quickly implement a set of requirements. And now we can diagram the relationship between par files, page classes, event handlers, Java server pages, and JSP include files. A par file might contain 0 to many page classes. A page class may have 0 to many event handlers. A page class may have 1 to many forms. A page class must have only one corresponding JSP file. A JSP file may have 0 to many JSP include files, and it is strongly recommended that there is a JSP include file for each form.
We've reached the end of this episode. In this episode, we covered the page object model, which includes the relationships between the par file, page classes, event handlers, JSP and JSP include files, and forms. This marks the end of this video. I hope you found it interesting and helpful. If you have any questions regarding Lentiles PaaS, please email me at info@dylanss.com. This is Dave Dillon saying so long, and I hope you stream me soon.